Hey everyone, happy hump day. It is high noon. You're turned into WMOQ 92.3 on your FM dial. That means it is time for the Marc McMain Show. I'm Bob Furr, filling in for Marc on Tuesdays. Today, of course, is Wednesday. That means I'm filling in for Jeff Hood. Got a chance to talk to Jeff last week. He's on the mend from his accident. We wish him Godspeed. Hope to have him back soon. Chastity, I feel guilty that there's been like false advertising at the start of every show, right? Because it says, Marc McMain Show, and now here's Marc McMain, and who do they get? They get me. Well, later on, we're going to have Monica Callahan on. She's the Director of Planning and Development for Madison, and we're going to have a great conversation about how planning and development happens, not just in Madison, but what you can learn about it for how it happens in your town as well. But today is going to be a guilt-free show, no false advertising here, because I want to welcome as our guest the man whose seat I've been keeping warm here, Republican nominee to represent District 46 in the Georgia State Senate, the aforementioned Marc McMain. Marc, welcome to your show.
Hey, thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. I tell you what, y'all have done such a heck of a job without me. I'm wondering if I'm going to have a job when I come back.
Yes.
Well, it's your show, your station, so I think we may have some kind of sit-in. We may protest a little bit. So, hey, so how was your day yesterday?
Oh, my Lord, what a day. This is such an emotional roller coaster when you go through an election like this, Bob. And you guys, Chastity knows this, we started this campaign over 14 months ago. And you have it in your eyes, your vision that day is going to come at some point, and you can already feel the stress and emotion. And it did not disappoint. It was a very stressful, emotional day. You're working as hard as you can up until the last minute to encourage people to get out to the polls and vote. And it was kind of funny, Bob, because around 6 p.m. I got home from putting out some signs and sign waving. And I went into the room downstairs and turned on the TV and put on Andy Griffith, and I just kind of shut down and just watched Andy Griffith until the results started coming in, and that kind of helped me decompress.
That's a solid move right there. I mean, if there is anything that can calm your nerves, it's Don Knotts. Like I don't know how anybody on that show ever kept a straight face acting alongside Don Knotts.
I found myself laughing yesterday, at a show I've seen 30 times, like I saw it the first time. But, in all honesty, it's my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ kept me calm. I cannot tell you how over especially the past 3 weeks when the race got very contentious, the stress level, peaked, and I had to find a way. I found myself on my knees quite often praying and just asking the Lord for guidance and peace and a way to really just kind of keep myself measured, and that's honestly what kept me, getting up every morning and getting after it and keep my head on straight. So I praise the Lord, and I thank the Lord for for standing with me.
Well, congratulations. And I want to ask that first question again, but very literally. So as I was thinking about this, walk us through your day yesterday. Walk us through the day of a candidate on Election Day.
Sure. Yeah, so leading up to that day, we're knocking doors. And when I say I'm knocking doors. I've got a team, a campaign manager that many of you met, JT. Chastity knocked some doors for us. We had a team of people knocking doors, not all the way, up through the primary and then starting in the runoff election, just phone banking, door knocking, putting out signs, handing out cards. So all that led up until Tuesday, yesterday. And what I did, I started my day off, and I saved my list of personal friends and contacts to reach out to them individually in the morning to, once again, text them, call them, encourage them to go to the polls. So I spent the majority of the morning and afternoon doing that. It just, because, Bob, in these runoff elections, people forget they exist.
Yeah.
There's people that didn't realize it was taking place. So I spent the time doing that, and then I moseyed on over to the intersection at 138 and Spring Street, right where the McDonald's is, and the bank, and Chick-fil-A. Me and a couple buddies, and we just went out there and we waved signs. And we did that for a couple hours. And then, like I said, I came back home and just decompressed. It was at that point that I felt like I had done every possible thing I could do to get my name out there, to encourage people to vote, to ask my friends to vote. And it was that piece of knowing there was nothing else left for us to do, either me as an individual or us as a campaign, to win this race.
Yeah, that's got to be kind of a moment of peace. I always thought, like when I was a hockey coach, and big game, there was one game in particular I remember, big championship game, and, there just came a moment when I talked to the kids on the bench and sent them out to the face-off circle, and my first thought was, okay, God, I've done all I can do. It's in their hands right now. So what did the day So there had to be a moment, Mark, when you said, I'm going to win. Like, was it one moment? Was it signs? And then when that moment came, like, how did that impact your thinking? How did the gears shift when that happened?
It's funny you say that. I'm going to say there was a couple moments, and you're spot on with the analogy of a sporting event. So anybody who's played in a sporting event, whether you're a football player, baseball player, any competitive event, those butterflies and anxieties identical for a campaign. It's no different. But when you're talking about these moments where you look back and you say, man, at that moment I knew I was going to win. I'm going to tell you a pivotal moment for me yesterday. Again, this is in the peak of the stress, peak of the concern. You're at a fever pitch, everything's taking place, and you're kind of anticipating with anxiety the results. I get this voicemail, and I'm not going to say the gentleman's name. I'll say his first name is Brian out of Barrow County. I get this voicemail from this guy. It was a guy that I was phone banking, so it was a blind call I had made to a prospective voter. Left him a message, and he called me back, and he left me this 2-minute-long voicemail. This guy's a veteran. He served our country in the Army. And it was the best cheerleading voicemail I've ever had in my life. Now, he dropped a couple expletives in there that I can't repeat, but it was, and I mean it was a shot in the arm that it's at that moment I called my team back and I said, you got to listen to this guy. This guy's fired up. And I'm going to tell you, Bob, from that point on for the rest of the day, I felt no stress. And so did I know I was going to win? I can't say I knew I was going to win, but did I feel good? And did the stress dissipate? Absolutely. And so it's people like Brian and others that gave me those incredible calls of encouragement that really made the difference.
Well, I know from our communications, I know you're really enjoying what you're doing, and anybody listening can hear the enthusiasm and excitement for what you're doing in your voice. But I also know it comes with a cost. I know it's been painful for you not to be on the air. It's time for station identification. You want to do it? Get a little fix from your old days?
You're listening to WMOQ, the Marc McMain Show. I miss it, guys. I do. I miss being on there with you, but I mean it. I listen to y'all. I listen to you, Jeff, Mitch, Doug, Taylor. It's really impressive to see how you guys have each brought your own, story, your conversation, your delivery, and so, man, I just got to find a way. Hopefully, there's an open spot. Chassie, did you leave an open day for me? Is there like one day I can come back and come back on the air at some point?
Absolutely, we've totally got space for you. So happy to have you back.
Well, let me say this too. I want to say thank you to everybody, our listeners, everyone from all corners of this community that helped me in some form or fashion. Not just my team, my family, but the supporters, the donors, the people that got out and voted, and even the folks that didn't vote for me. I want to earn your vote in November. This has been an honor of a lifetime to do this. It was tough. It was a very competitive, tough race. I tip my hat to my competitor. Things sometimes get a little bit hairy, but at the end of the day, we're doing this because we love our country, we love our state, we love our community. I'm not allowed to complain because I signed up for this, but I'll tell you, Bob, Chastity, it is the toughest thing I've ever done. It's not the toughest thing I've ever been through, but it's the toughest task I've ever taken on, that's for sure.
Well, it's very well deserved, and true hard worker that you are, so we can't be more proud.
Thank you, Chastity.
Let me tell you how good Mark is at radio. He just answered my next question without me even asking it. So, no, it was great. It was great. So, Mark, I when I was in my previous career, we were all independent contractors for a company, and we had an annual sales conference, annual awards, and I was blessed to be a top performer most years, and we would always be like, "Hey, congratulations on a great year," and the response would always be, "Yep, starting over though." So, it's different now. Not you're kind of starting all over again, and in a different way, because now it's not within your own party. Now it's within the competition with the other party. How do things change now? What's it look like now?
Well, no rest for the weary, right? Obviously take a down day for a day or two, and that's it. So we're taking the general election very, very serious. We know that State Senate District 46 is a heavily Republican district, but that does not mean that I will not be working at a fever pitch again to win November 3rd. But also the added burden for me now, not burden, the added task for me is helping all of the other statewide candidates get across the finish line. So we've got to be sure that Rick Jackson becomes our next governor. We've got to be sure that Brian Strickland becomes our next attorney general, and Tim Fleming our next secretary of state, and on and on and on. So there's guys that we got to help win because that is vitally important, for the future of our state. So yeah, I've got a full plate of me winning my race and helping everyone else win theirs.
So one of my favorite movies, Mark, I'm sure you're familiar with it, is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It's a classic old movie with Jimmy Stewart, who's this idealist politician who goes to Washington with all these great ideas about how he's going to help the country, and then he immediately gets crushed by the system. And, you know, I know you're savvy enough to know going in, you've got what you want to accomplish. You know it's going to be hard. You know you're going to have to compromise. You know, if you get elected in this next election, when you get elected in this next election, how are you going to approach that? How do you work to accomplish what you want to accomplish, balancing it against what you know you need to do to get anything done at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the blessings of running for office or winning office at my age, which I'm 55, I'll be 56 when the next legislative session begins, is I've had 3+ decades of trials, right, going through life, whether it's the businesses I've started, the family I've raised, the things that you go through that every listener has experienced. So I've got 3+ decades of that's forged who I am. So I'm blessed. You know, I was broke as a teenager. I've done decent as an adult in life, so there's no financial incentives for me to go there and take advantage of. I'm going there because I'm a task-oriented guy. So what I'm looking at is there's 4 pillars to my campaign: law enforcement, improving our education, lowering our taxes, and addressing the mental health crisis. And so I think what I want to focus on is those 4 things over the summer. How do I get that messaging across? How do I get into the next legislative session and find like-minded people, hopefully on both sides of the aisle, but at a minimum in the Republican Party, that are going to see what I'm seeing and see the things that we need to address. Look, our citizens are getting hammered by property taxes. We have to lower our state income tax. I've knocked 1,750 doors myself, Bob, and I've cried on the doorsteps of some of the people who have gone through really difficult things. There's hurt right now going in right in our backyard. And so how do I get people on board with what I know needs to happen? And what my gut is, I'm going to come across a lot of other state senators who are hearing the same thing. We have to address the property tax issue. We have to address the income tax issue. Our education is 38 out of 50. That's terrible. We shouldn't just be top 10. We should be number 1 in this nation. Georgia is an incredibly resourceful state. We should be number 1. Our law enforcement, especially our sheriffs and police in rural counties, do not have an adequate retirement plan. We ask them to wear a bulletproof vest and put a gun on their waist and stand between us and a bullet, and they don't have a retirement plan or a retirement plan that's adequate. So we have to address that. And then the mental health crisis. When I'm knocking doors, Bob, 90% of my conversations go to mental health. You go to Athens, you can see it manifesting there. We can do better as a state. This shouldn't be a Republican or Democrat or conservative or liberal talking point. Just what I say is, from a conservative perspective, we have to get to the systemic core of why we have this problem and fix it. We cannot enable and we cannot appease. We have to fix this, and we can do better as a state.
Well, Mark, that's awesome. Last question is, you know, we've been joking about the show. So what's up with the show? Like, when are you allowed to come back? What's it going to look like? What's the plan for the show?
Chastity is renegotiating my contract, so you know, I'm looking forward. I'm coming back on the air next week, and again, I think right now I'm slated to come on 1 day a week, which is perfect with the volume of stuff that we're still having to do, not just political-wise, but business-wise. So I'm going to come on 1 day a week next week, and then maybe at some point move into 2 days a week. Maybe I'll come in and sit in with you some days, Bob, or do some cool stuff like that. But for sure, starting next week, I'll be on 1 day a week, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you're always welcome with me, Mark. I mean, how generous of that is me. I'm going to welcome Mark to be back on his own show. So,
we're going to talk hockey too, if anyone will listen to us, Bob.
Yeah, we got to get on. You got to get on Billy Brew. There, he was kind of bashing hockey the other day. I had to call him out on it a little bit. So.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
Bob,
I know.
Bob, we're going to get back.
Let's get the 3 of us in the studio. Well, Mark, hey,
the rock lobsters is what I think we need to do.
Yeah,
got a spot for us.
Sounds good. Hey, well, congratulations, Godspeed, and really appreciate you joining us today. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show on Real Country 92.3. We've just been talking with Marc McMain, recently won the Republican nomination for the Georgia Senate seat representing District 46. We'll be right back after a few commercial messages.
I chuckled at a cartoon that showed a news conference by a United States senator who announced that he was divorcing his family so he could spend more time with politics. We may laugh, but the truth is many people make that statement every day. Maybe not with words, but with their actions. In fact, if a politician retires from his work to spend more time with his family, it becomes the lead story met with cynicism on the evening news, while the one who rejects his family advancing his career is commonplace. God tells us we should work hard to the glory of God, but He has clearly shown that we must have priorities. A relationship with God first, and family follows that. What does your focus tell you about your priorities? The Bible says that we have brought nothing into this world and we can take nothing out of it. It's good to focus on the things that last, like putting God first, and then family, and then people all around us that God loves. This is Bryant Wright, speaking right from my heart.
Visit rightfromtheheart.org and click television to watch our TV spots.
The Madison Trolley Company is Morgan County's newest 5-star attraction. We offer historic Madison tours year-round, a haunted history experience in the fall, and our Madison Lights Christmas Tour and Mary Maddie Express Adventure for kids have become new holiday traditions. Our private charters add vintage charm to weddings and special occasions aboard a historic trolley by day, party trolley by night. Find us on the Madison Town Square or get on board by visiting madisontrolley.com or calling us at 706-997-1800.
When you walk through the doors of Campton Restaurant, you're not just here for a meal, you're part of a tradition. I'm fourth-generation owner Josh Parker, and for nearly 40 years, families in Walton County and surrounding areas have gathered around our tables to share stories, laughter, and good Southern cooking. From crispy fried chicken to heart-healthy daily specials, there's always a plate waiting with your name on it. We're open Tuesday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. and 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays. So come on by, make yourself at home, and experience Campton Restaurant, where family tradition meets every meal.
And welcome back, Real Country. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show, WMOQ to the FCC, 92.3 to you on your FM dial. I'm Bob Furr filling in for Marc on Tuesdays. We were just talking to the aforementioned Marc about his successful bid to become the Republican candidate for the District 46 Georgia State Senate seat. We are going to shift now, though, to a guest I've been wanting to have on for a long time. Very excited about it. Where and how you live is largely impacted by two types of roles: elected officials and government employees. And like elected officials, we tend to get focused on the big, national, high-profile state roles and that sort of thing. But like elected government, it's the people at the local level where the impact is greatest on your life. Well, for the past nearly 30 years, I won't race you ahead there, Monica. The people of Madison, the city of Madison, have been impacted by Monica Callahan, who is the Planning and Development Director for the city. And Monica is joining us today to talk about all things planning and development in Madison. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, whenever I interview elected officials, candidates, people in roles like yours, we always want to make sure we understand exactly, what we're talking about and what they do. Before we get to that, though, tell us about Monica Callahan. What is the Monica Callahan story?
My mother would kill me if I didn't say I am the daughter of Wendell and Gloria Hobby of Turner County, Georgia. So I'm a Georgia native, multiple generations. I'm from South Georgia and decided to go to a small Baptist private school in the middle of the state, and then up to Georgia for law, and then decided maybe I wanted to serve the public in a little bit of different fashion. So preservation is my background, and that led me to Madison.
Yeah, what a great combination. I noticed in your background, you have that blend of planning and development and also historic preservation. I mean, job in Madison pretty much made for you. So let's talk about that job.
Sure.
One of the things when we talk about different roles and interview people, one of the questions, especially when I'm doing it with Marc, is, there's a lot of questions about the issues. I'm like, hold on, what do you do? Like, what? I think a lot of people don't understand exactly what is the role. So tell us, what exactly is the role and responsibilities of the Planning and Development Department in Madison and you as its head?
Okay, so for about the last 25 years, the role of planning in Madison has been one of kind of balancing growth. And so the way you do that is through a couple different tools. First thing we use, as always, is the comprehensive plan, and then we have several plans that focus on specific things like transportation or green space, like our green print. We also administer the zoning process, which is how you determine which land uses go where. And you would know that as more like, where do I get to do my business? And so we guide people through that process. We also administer and oversee outside agencies that provide services for us, like plan review. That's how am I going to build my building? What do my designs look like? And so we have someone who reviews those, and we oversee that process and issue all the permits. And so we make sure the public is safe when things are built, that people can enter them safely, and route those plans around. But one of the more significant things we do on the development side of things is we talk to new business owners that are interested in moving to town, how to help them almost like an ombudsman, move through the process and meet all the people and get the right permits. We also staff 6 or 7 public service boards. I loved when you said that there are like elected officials and government employees. And in my sphere, we don't think about it like that. We think of all of ourselves as public officials, and the state law for ethics applies to public officials, and that includes the elected officials, the employed officials, and it includes the appointed officials. And those are all those citizens that help us guide the community, and we get to staff their groups.
So great segue into my next question, because there's also a Planning and Zoning Commission in Madison.
That's one of the groups.
What do they do, and what's the difference between your function and their function?
Sure. So our job is more of an administrative and a professional viewpoint. So we take in the applications, we assist applicants with getting all the materials that are necessary for the decision makers. And then those are provided in accordance with state law, following all the guidelines, so the public has access to that information, to the Planning and Zoning Commission, who weighs it, and they provide kind of community context. They compare it to the comp plan, which is the expressed will of the people of how we'll grow and not grow. And they make a recommendation. Some planning and zoning bodies in the state are the final decision makers. Ours is not. Just like Morgan County's, ours makes a recommendation that goes to the elected body. So the elected body receives professional guidance from my department, they receive the applicant's information, and they receive a recommendation from a citizens group, which is the P&Z board. And then they also receive public input. So the Planning and Zoning Commission's primary role is to conduct the public hearing process to make sure it's fair and orderly and that everybody gets heard, even when they're angry.
So they're kind of the voice of the citizenry. I knew I was not going to be able to say that word. Voice of the citizenry, and also kind of facilitate that voice with the public hearings and such like that, or at least...
Yes, that's exactly right, except that I would say that the P&Z has training.
Right.
And so, whereas the public voice might not know exactly what the background or how it applies, the Planning and Zoning Commission has the rules, the ordinances, and they apply the rule of law to the application in front of them.
Got it. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show on WMOQ, Real Country 92.3. Bob Furr filling in for Marc on Tuesdays, filling in for Jeff Hood on Wednesdays today. We're talking with Monica Callahan, the Madison Planning and Development Director for the City of Madison, and we're talking about all things planning and development in cities like Madison, which applies to cities like yours as well. So, Chastity, I used to be the safety advisor for planning commissions in my hometown, and so that was everything from event planning. If the circus came to town, I developed the emergency plan, to new projects and how they would impact public safety, risk, resources, that sort of thing. I remember this one time a housing subdivision came to town, and it was going to dump significant traffic into what was already our most dangerous intersection. And I mean, the DOT study showed there was going to be a disproportionate impact on accident volume and severity based on that analysis. So when it came time, I'm like, we need to do something about this. And I got attacked. And it was like, you're against development. This. I'm like, I'm not against development. I'm against accidents, right? I'm against people getting hurt. I was all for the project. I just wanted the intersection redesigned, and either way, it wasn't my job, right, to approve or disapprove the project. I feel like, Monica, you and your team gets put into a similar position, very often. So where do you see the most confusion about what your department and the commission, and by extension, all the thing, that role, what they do and what they don't do, what they're responsible for, not responsible for, what they decide and don't decide?
I think one of the hardest things is for the public to disassociate the fact that we're advocates. We are not, in the zoning role, we are not advocates. We are not for an application or against an application. We're weighing the application against the policy that the city fathers have handed us. Now, when we're writing an ordinance or developing policy, we are professional advocates, and we're going to speak to that position. But when it is a regulatory role instead of them making law, so when they're making law, we're advocating. But when they're determining how the law applies to each situation, our role is to remain neutral, and we do that. And sometimes we have to grit our teeth and do it. Someone will come in with what we perceive as probably an application that's not good for the community, and our job is to treat them with as much deference as we would as somebody who was doing something that was good for the community. We help them understand what they have to have in their applications, how they move forward, and what their appeals process is. So we don't get to play favorites when somebody comes in and does a request. We share what the rules are, and we help them walk through the process, good or bad.
And I got to tell you, Chastity, I've been going to these meetings for the better part of a year. I've seen this unfold, and Monica and her department do an exceptional job at this. You know, like you'll never sit there and say, oh, Monica likes this or Monica doesn't like this. They are just unbelievably effective facilitators of the process. So kudos to you on that. So listen, I think, from my perspective, I think, Madison's doing a great job with planning and development. Somebody posted something on Facebook the other day, and it was like, Madison is a great little town, and the comment was, yeah, for now. I'm like, okay, sorry for your whatever's making you miserable, but clearly Madison's doing some good things. What do you think sets Madison apart when it comes to being effective in planning and development?
I think there's a couple of good things. One is Madison's always, and some people might think full of themselves, but I would say that we're context-based oriented. We understand what makes us unique and special, what makes us authentic, and we reinforce that and preserve it. But we're also a community that, being a little too big for our britches sometimes, also goes out and seeks out new opportunities and entertains new things like your business when it came to town. Bruce Gilbert, when he was mayor, one of the things that would keep me up at night is he'd be in Charleston, South Carolina, or he would be up in North Carolina, and he'd text me and say, a picture, and he'd say, we can do this. And I'm like, oh, God, how do I downsize that enough for a town of 5,000? So, but then I would say for, a good 2 or 3 decades, Madison has enjoyed really consistent, stable leadership. And that's something that I see sometimes other towns struggle with. When you don't have that stability, staff can only do what the elected body empowers us to do. And so if staff doesn't enjoy stability, then you don't see the buildup and layering of prosperity.
Yeah, a good city leadership, you can only do what city leadership allows you to do. You can only do as good a job as you're allowed to do. And it seems like they do a fairly good job on that for sure. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. Bob Furr filling in for Marc on Tuesdays, but today's Wednesday, so I'm filling in for Jeff Hood, who we wish a speedy recovery. We are going to take a planned commercial break here to develop your interest in some commercial messages. We'll be right back.
My name is Trace Akins. I'm from Moultrie, Georgia. To be an organ donor, it would make my family really proud to see something of me live on in someone else. I want my legacy to be me being there for someone who really needs me and helping someone out that really needs help, hoping that they will continue that legacy within themselves and do that with their friends and family.
When you become an organ and tissue donor, your story continues. LifeLink. Register today at mystorycontinues.com.
Madison Flooring, located at 1167 Eatonton Road in Madison, is your full-service and professional installation center for all kinds of flooring, from tile, carpet, laminate, wood. They even do showers. They have granite and quartz countertops. All military, police, firefighters, and teachers ask for your discount. Madison Flooring is locally owned and operated. For knowledgeable and friendly service, call 706-431-5152.
Is technology giving you a tough time at your home or business? Don't worry, Big Mountain Computers is here to help. We're your local tech experts, now open in Madison.
Our white glove service ensures personalized solutions for all your IT needs, hardware fixes, remote support, private lessons, and more. Visit us at Madison Plaza across from Ingalls or call 706-343-4184 to schedule your consultation. That's 706-343-4184. Big Mountain Computers, turning your mountains into molehills.
The Madison Trolley Company is Morgan County's newest 5-star attraction. We offer historic Madison tours year-round, a haunted history experience in the fall, and our Madison Lights Christmas Tour and Mary Maddie Express Adventure for kids have become new holiday traditions. Our private charters add vintage charm to weddings and special occasions aboard a historic trolley by day, party trolley by night. Find us on the Madison Town Square or get on board by visiting madisontrolley.com or calling us at 706-997-1800.
And welcome back, Real Country. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show on 92.3. And we are talking with Monica Callahan, the Madison Planning and Development Director. And we're getting a better understanding of how planning and development works, not only in Madison, Morgan County's largest city, but your community as well. So, Monica, before we went to the break, I asked you, what do you think really works well? I bet you can guess what the next question is going to be. Nothing's perfect. What would you like to see work better when it comes to planning and development in and around the city of Madison?
Well, you're probably helping us with that some today. I wish people had a better understanding of what public service is. I think some people go to work and they're doing a job and they're earning their money and they're going home, but I think a lot of public servants are in it to make lives better for real people. And so there's a reason I'm not moving on to state and federal government. I'm at the local level because I believe we have that impact that you talked about at the beginning. So most people that want to raise, it's easier to job hop. It's easier to seek employment in the Atlanta area. So it's easier to stay local if people understand what you're really doing is you're choosing to stay there.
It's, my parents were both school teachers, 72 years combined in the public. And, my parents didn't have a job. They had a calling. I mean, they walked away from that Wagons West business, which probably could have been a pretty lucrative business because they didn't want to give up teaching. And, I just don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think the motivation can be for these people who go through everything they go through in lower paying, harder public service jobs in many cases? I wish people would be more tolerant about that as well.
Well, I wasn't complaining because honestly, there are rewards for doing it. You know your community well. You can serve your community more over time as you build those relationships. If you're hopping all the time, you don't. The average planner's life in a community is usually 4 years. They move after 4 years to get a raise because you're not usually there's not a ladder to move up at local level.
or take what you've learned into the private sector.
That's right.
I imagine there's an opportunity there as well.
That's the most common thing.
Gotcha.
So
Chastity, we've talked before about how the idea for the trolley company was, I wouldn't say it was a joke, but it was kind of an offhand remark. And as soon as I said it, I'm like, well, that might actually work. But it's out of the box, right? And I'm like, where do I start? Where do I go with this? Well, my brother-in-law, Jason Brown, is one of the founders of Georgia Civil. They're an engineering firm in Madison, and they do land planning. And, they help you with all the planning work that you need to do. So they obviously work closely with Monica's department. And Jason, right off the bat, said, you got to go talk to this woman, Monica Callahan. Now, I've been in town for 15 minutes, and I'm going into the planning office. And I'm just going to say, Monica makes an impression when you sit down to meet with her.
Oh, God.
You know right away she's smart. She's no nonsense. She gets right to the point. She tells you exactly like it is, how she sees things. I liked her instantly, right? I liked her instantly. And I will tell you that you deserve credit in some regard for the fact there is a Madison Trolley Company, because it was in that meeting I decided I'm really going to do this. And the reason I did was because I'm like, this woman seems to think it's a good idea. And she both seems like somebody who would know if it's a good idea and would tell me if it wasn't. And so that's when I really walked away feeling like it would work. And let's put this in perspective. I'm a Yankee, right? You could argue I'm a carpetbagger, right? Here I am coming from the north, opening a business in this 217-year-old southern town. I'm an outsider in a town where they say you have to be 4 or 5 deep in the cemetery to say you're from Madison. Right. There's no real precedent. It's a highly visible business. If this trolley falls on its face, right, it's not going to be like a restaurant fails. It's going to be like, oh, Madison tried. They weren't, whatever. It could, it's unique, something they had no processes for. And right from the start, I felt like the city of Madison wanted me to succeed. And when I started talking to people about it, oh my gosh, you're starting a trolley business? How did you get Madison to approve that? And I don't understand the thinking. I saw no evidence of this mindset that it's hard to get things done in Madison. I think people get the impression that Madison doesn't want change or doesn't want development. Monica, I attend the meetings. I know the people involved. I know that's not true. Why do you think people get that impression?
Well, I think it's because we both embrace history in a big way. They think that we want to be Williamsburg, we don't want to change. But you can embrace and love your history and your architecture and be proud of it and use it for monetary gain without necessarily being anti-growth. And I think that as long as the community is focused on balance, we're doing okay. I do think that there's a perception that Madison is anti-business is always the way I used to hear it, not anti-growth. The new anti-growth conversation is recent.
Yeah.
Before that, it was just we're anti-business. And
Right.
I think it's because we are a highly regulatory environment. So Madison has probably more regulations than most cities our size. But we also have 2 or 3 planners to help you walk through the process. We want you to come. We want you to follow our rules. And so we're invested in helping you get there by following the path. And if you don't want to follow that path, there's 3 or 4 communities around us that'd be proud to have you, and that's okay. Not everything is for our community, And so when that pet crematoria wanted to come downtown and go beside the bakery, we have an ordinance that says it can't do that, and that's okay. My job is also to say no when I'm supposed to say no. So.
And what's interesting for me was there was no process. You know what I mean? There was no, it wasn't like we were following any kind of playbook. And what I was really amazed by was the city's collaboration is the word, that I would come to your department, the city council, and how everybody, worked together. And that's why I get frustrated when I see some of what I've seen sometimes. So I attend all the meetings, Chastity. My feeling is people coming to Madison from the outside world with me and having the trolley tour, I'm kind of, for lack of a better word, an ambassador or information source for the city. So I go to all the meetings, all the commission meetings that I can. I really try to understand so I can answer questions. And I so often see people get the wrong impression. For example, there's a recent project, current project. It's a very popular restaurant in town. I'm a big fan of it as well. I went to a meeting. I heard the discussion about where the project stands. And the next day, Facebook is blowing up with all these people talking about the city should be ashamed of itself and this and that. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, the city that I saw operating last night is exactly the city that I want to see operating. So, Monica, what would you have people consider before they go on social media or simply start talking around town, leveling judgments and opinions that aren't grounded in facts and reality? Does it matter? Is it really a big deal? How does it impact things?
Wow, that wasn't loaded at all. So I just think that whether you're in a public forum or whether you're on social media, I would like to see everybody just comment responsibly. And remember that other people don't necessarily share their opinion, and they're allowed to have a different opinion, and there's no need to villainize people of the opposite opinion. Often, I wish people would be less emotive and more rational and come in with arguments that we can actually use the ordinance to achieve what they're looking for. That's not often the case. They come in and they're like, well, my mama needs this, or this is going to... They're fear-based arguments. They're emotive-based arguments. Those are not legal justifications for saying yes or saying no to something. So we need people, if they're going to do their own research and comment, we would encourage them to comment responsibly, and maybe once in a while just see us as a community public servant and come in and ask. We're there every day. We're happy to answer questions for both those for and against projects. They're going to get the same answer.
Can confirm, right? I had a lot of questions. I got good answers, useful answers as soon as I asked. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show here on Real Country 92.3. Bob Furr filling in for Marc on Tuesdays. We're talking with Monica Callahan, the Planning and Development Director for the City of Madison. We're now going to hope to develop your interest in some additional topics as we move forward here. Chastity, you got something you want to jump in here?
Don't worry, Miss Monica. These puns are grandfathered in.
That's good.
So Monica, let's stay on this a little bit further. How would you, because the point you talked about, the vitriol, we just had a big project that went through the process in Madison, and I was really disappointed in the way some in the community behaved and the way it became, whether you're for or against the project, the vitriol, just the nature of it. Like literally, I listened to one woman blatantly, complain about the other side getting into fear mongering before she immediately went into fear mongering. So in the ideal world, how would you like to see the public involved in the planning and development process?
Well, I would like to see us return to some level of civility and remember that we're all neighbors and we have to live together afterwards. There was a project about 12 years ago that went through the process, and I was just doing my job, and my husband and I lost significant friends that we still to this day no longer associate with because of the things that were said in public, and it just wasn't necessary to be able to express their displeasure with the project. And so I think that civility would be the first thing I would encourage, and then the real moving through the process is to make sure that we remember that we're all neighbors. I mean, I just can't say that enough. I'm going to go back to that. I really think that we all have to live together afterwards. And if we take the malaise that's at the federal level all the way down now, we started seeing it at the state level about 8 years ago and 4 years ago. It's all the way down to the local level now. And people draw lines and they're in camps. And, you're for something or you're anti something. And honestly, most of us live in the middle. And we want to work together and figure out what balance of community is. Balance is balanced discussion.
I often quote the historian Shelby Foote, and he had a great quote about the Civil War, and he said, we lost our ability to compromise as Americans. Now, I want to be clear. There's no room for compromise on the issue of slavery, right? But he was speaking. I think we've taken that to a new level. I think as Americans, we have lost our ability to agree to disagree, right?
Civilly.
And it's not just that, the other side has to lose, and I think it's disappointing. And I would add to what you said, Monica, be informed. Like that thing I decided, that restaurant, after I heard it, I felt like I had to get on social media and say, hold on a second, guys, this is crazy. You're bashing these people. I was literally the only member of the public at the public meeting hearing the actual information. So my dad used to have a great expression. He said, better to keep your mouth shut and appear the fool than to open it and remove any doubt. So know what you're talking about before you start talking about it, especially before becoming a keyboard warrior in that. So
for years, I hope that people have noticed that the city of Madison does not dogfight. We do not get in the newspaper and write editorials. We don't. There has been some recent stuff, I think, but before that, the first 25 years I've served the city, you didn't see espousing of opinions by public officials in the newspaper on city issues. That was held in the public forum, and it was always civil discourse. And once it gets into social media now, it has really become a different animal.
It really has. It's the new yellow journalism, right? Mm-hmm. We were talking about this the other day when we were doing our Tuesdays 250 by 50 series.
I think it's the anonymity.
Yeah, I agree. Easy to hide behind, and like literally, right? You can somebody just posted a diatribe about how horrible Madison was anonymously. I mean, what are you thinking? So, I'm thinking it's time for a commercial break. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show here on Real Country 92.3. Bob Furr filling in for Marc on Tuesdays, talking with Monica Callahan, Madison's Planning and Development Director. We're going to take a few commercial breaks. Be right back.
The Madison Trolley Company is Morgan County's newest 5-star attraction. We offer historic Madison tours year-round, a haunted history experience in the fall, and our Madison Lights Christmas Tour and Mary Maddie Express Adventure for kids have become new holiday traditions. Our private charters add vintage charm to weddings and special occasions aboard a historic trolley by day, party trolley by night. Find us on the Madison Town Square or get on board by visiting madisontrolley.com or calling us at 706-997-1800.
Make sure your diesel is ready for every season by stopping in at Leadfoot Diesel. Their technicians have many years of combined experience to keep your Cummins, Power Stroke, and Duramax running the way it should. Plus, they can improve fuel mileage, perform upgrades, AC repair, and they offer tires, wheels, lift kits, and more. Diesel owners from all over the country trust Leadfoot Diesel, 320 Mayfield Drive in Monroe. Stop in or go to leadfootdiesel.com.
Leadfoot Mulching and Grading offers land clearing, hauling of gravel and sand, and more. And now offering screen topsoil for the farmer or homeowner, asphalt paving, and more. No job is too big or small. Locally owned and operated, it's Leadfoot Mulching and Grading, serving all of North Georgia. Fair prices and great customer service. Phone 404-909-5227 or go to leadfootmulching.com.
And welcome back, Real Country. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show here on 92.3. We are talking with Madison's Planning and Development Director, Monica Callahan. So, when I worked with clients, I was a growth advisory consultant, and typically what the clients I would have would be the family $200 million business that wants to be a $500 million business. And my thing to them was, the key is, how do we get you from, you got to change what got you to 200 million, because you're not going to get to 500 million doing the same things, but you sure don't want to lose what got you to 200 million in the first place. That to me would probably be how you look at, how do we grow and develop in Madison? Now let's throw in the wild card that it's an historic destination. And I would say I've been to a few. It's a unique historic destination. My town was founded in 1660. We got stone houses going back. George Washington literally slept in one. The difference is, in between those stone houses is a liquor store and a parking lot and a hardware store. Madison is like Williamsburg-like in its unique preservation. How does a city like Madison grow and develop, get the affordable housing, the tax dollars, the jobs, the revenue that it needs, preserving and protecting its history without getting stuck in it?
Ooh, $1 million question. Well, the short answer is it has to have some vision and agreement on how to get there. I think that's the crux of what we're going through right now. We've been having growing pains for the last 10 years. I think we'll have growing pains for the next 10 years as the community kind of struggles with what does growing up look like. We've got plenty of citizens who are content. They've got theirs, and the way we look is, and the way we live is enough. But I think we're starting to see the effects of slow gentrification, city and county-wide. We've been watching it for the last 5 years. House prices are going through the roof. And I think the community has to have real dialogue about solutions instead of, fear of a future. We have to decide what that future looks like. You hear that whole statement about if you ain't growing, you're dying. Well, there's some truth in that. But how you grow gracefully matters. And so I think the dialogue, as we're doing the comprehensive plan right now for city and county, is about how Madison and Morgan County and Bostwick and Rutledge and Buckhead all grow gracefully the way the citizens are looking for. So come and participate in that dialogue.
Yeah, that is such a great point. I mean, I've got, my niece or my nephew, and I guess we'd call it soon to be niece-in-law, born and raised here in the area. Good luck with them starting their lives here. You ought to be able to afford a home in the town where you grew up. And I think, that's something we really need to think about, especially, and I saw that in that recent thing it was the, I got mine, I don't care if you need yours, and that was really disappointing. All right, let's talk about you, Monica. So I was taking a look at some things. The average employee in any role in the private sector stays with their company for about 4 years, just under 4 years. In a government agency, it's a little bit more. It's just a little over 6 years. You've been in your role almost 30 years. What first attracted you to the role, and what's kept you attracted to it for so long?
So I was drawn to Madison for 3 reasons, maybe 4. The top 4, let's see. So I wanted to work in a small town the size of my hometown. I'm from a small community of about the size and county size of Madison and Morgan County. I wanted to be above the outline. I wanted to serve a community that wanted to do historic preservation because I'm a context-based design planner. Everything should be context-based and scaled for our environment, our human environment. And then the fourth reason, don't tell my parents, is I needed to be outside the drop-in radius, which is an hour and a half. Farmers and teachers don't leave very often. So that was what drove me to Madison. It was a small town that cared about itself, and it had really, really phenomenal, steady civic leadership.
And I'm going to come back to that because you kind of gave me a segue into a future question, because the Madison you came to, as I understand it, is not the Madison that we see today. It's gone through a fair amount of change during that particular period. But I want to take a side road here and do a little bragging on our Monica. So, of course, this year it's America 250, and there's a lot going on. One of the things that's going on right now is Local Government 250 and an organization called the National Academy of Public Administration are designating what they're calling Local Government 250 Champions. And this is a program that is designed to recognize and celebrate these exceptional individuals who have done significant work in their cities, significantly impacted their cities, councils, counties, regional, state, federal government level. These individuals exemplify what they call democracy at the doorstep with their dedication, innovation, and the highest sense of public service. And Monica, you have been awarded this national recognition as a Champion 250. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
And second of all, in your view, how and why did you receive this honor, and how did it make you feel when you did?
It's overwhelming. And I'm like, who, me? Small town girl? From a small town, serving a small town? It's hard to think that nationwide I'm important enough to be in that 250. That doesn't seem real to me. But I think it probably speaks better of Madison and its the citizen board leaders that I've gotten, the appointed officials that have done great layered work and leveraged funding outside of our community to do wonderful things in this community. I think it speaks more to people seeing Madison from the outside, and if they think I contributed in some small way to making that happen, then okay. But I really think that really probably belongs to the elected and the appointed leadership that have allowed me to be the planner that I've been.
So, Monica, I don't know if you can skate, but you'd make a great hockey player, because that's what hockey players, in other sports, is always like, yeah, I did this, I did that. Hockey players are always like, it was my teammates, it was my coach, it was the program. You'd make a great, I don't know if you can skate or not, but you'd make a great hockey player. So you're listening to the Marc McMain Show here on Real Country 92.3. Bob Furr filling in for Mark, talking with Monica Callahan, the Planning and Development Director for the City of Madison. So you've been with Madison for a while, and to put this in some perspective, I don't know if you've thought of it this way, but in Madison's history of 217 years, you have been its planning and development director for about 15% of that history. So you have been with the city for a while. I think you've been through 3 mayors, maybe only 2, but 2 or 3 mayors.
2 mayors.
I know you've been through 5 presidents and 6 presidential administrations, and I say that kind of, lightly, but those changes bring changes, right? The trickle down to the local level. And you've been in your role that has spanned 4 decades, including a pretty big decade, as I understand it. I wasn't here, but the 2000s to 2010, leading up to Morgan County and Madison's bicentennial. Looking back, what stands out to you the most about the changes and development you've seen in Madison during your tenure?
The biggest changes, I think, have been wrought by hard work by the civic officials that are appointed. They take visionary ideas to the council and they get them supported. Like a good example of that is Town Park and the Downtown Development Authority with the Bicentennial Committee leading that. $4.5 million, $2.25 million raised in private donations in 2007. That was a miracle, it seems like. But planners get to do 2 or 3 big projects while they're with the community, and if they're there that long. And I'm probably most proud of Town Park. I love to see small children come and play there. I love to see the events come together there. It's nice to have Main Street have a playground. And then I think it's the other one is probably the urban renewal area. Canaan has gotten more than $45 million in investment, and that's a quarter of our population that was geographically separated, and I don't want to say neglected because that's not the right word, but they certainly weren't highlighted. They were left behind when the district kind of prospered and everybody else got that lift. So I'm proud that we've been able to make some inroads to reconnecting a quarter of our population with the rest of the prosperity the community's enjoyed.
Well, and to give you an idea, Chastity, about why she got the award, so I had the opportunity recently to take, Monica arranged it for me to bring an organization called the Georgia Municipal Association around for the tour of our various, I guess you would call it affordable housing projects or urban renewal type of projects, type of thing.
Affordable and workforce.
And workforce housing. And I had three conclusions. One was, man, this is interesting. I wish I could tell this story on the tour. The tour would be 8 hours long, but just not getting to it. That was the first thing. Second thing was these people came here to see how Monica and Madison do it. You know what I mean? And that was really interesting to hear. And then the third takeaway was, man, we have done a lot. Like there has been I think we tend to focus, look, we have as I understand it, we have I don't know if I'd call it a affordable housing crisis, but an affordable housing challenge issue, whatever the right word is. And it seems like we've done a lot to offset that challenge.
So we have the same housing challenges we're experiencing nation and statewide. The quick version of that is I think we've made really good inroads into affordable rental housing and workforce rental housing, and we've kind of caught up with what we were lagging behind in. So we don't, if you're asking, do we need more rental affordable? We probably don't now. We've kind of caught up with where our deficit was. But what we desperately need as a local community, and we keep saying it again and again, is we need middle housing. We need starter housing. We need downsize housing. And it needs to be both rental and owner-occupied. There's the paucity of owner-occupied starter housing. It just doesn't exist anymore. If your new start at $750,000 or your rent is at $1,200 and there's nothing in between, you've got a housing challenge.
Yeah, I don't think I was starting out in a $750,000 house when I was in my 20s or 30s for sure. So here's a good question for you, Monica. What do you think Madison's future looks like?
I think you're going to come tell me at the comprehensive plan hearings. I'm excited for a future that I don't know where it goes yet. I do think there is a moment in time where you get to decide how to guide your growth, and you can. It's real easy to get in the ditch. So I think that we're listening for the whole community to come out and comment, not just a segment of it. And we want to hear how everybody hopes their future for their children and their retirement looks like. We need to know what that looks like. We can help shape it. We can help encourage it to get there. But the vision we have to pull out of the citizens' heads. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable.
And I would add to that, just from what I've observed, is don't come out to be heard just when you're against something. Don't come out to be heard just when you're for a specific thing. Get involved, when those things are becoming things and being identified in the first place.
If I can piggyback on that, you asked me how things could be better. We need citizens not to participate on the back end as critics. We need them to participate in the ongoing when we're taking in the input and offer solutions or offer more ideas in between. Because what happens is we get a product together and then people come critique it as Monday morning quarterbacks on the backside, and it negates all the other people's participation in between. And we don't think any one citizen's comments are more important than another's.
So last question, what's next for Monica Callahan?
She probably eventually goes back to private consulting. I don't know that you know this, but on the side, I've run a private company for the last 25 years called Piedmont Preservation.
Well, tell us a little bit about that.
Just provide leadership development and preservation and public speaking throughout the state of Georgia and a little bit of the Southeast. And I'll probably have to rebrand it so it's not just preservation when it comes back out. But the rule when I got hired by Charles Young, love him, 3 city managers, 2 mayors, by the way, was that I could work as long as I didn't do that work in Madison and Morgan County. So every city employee I know has a second job.
And how do they get in touch with you? How do they find out more about what you can offer and what you do?
They can send me an email, and you've got it, so they should call the station.
Okay, you got it.
I don't need to advertise my city email.
Got it. Well, I'm a little disappointed in that answer because I thought she was going to say that she had aspirations to be a tour guide on the Madison Trolley Company. I got an impression that when we were doing that Georgia Municipal Association thing, she'd be great at it. So, Monica, thanks so much for coming in. It's been so informative, so entertaining, so great to hear from you.
My
You do such a
pleasure.
great job. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. You've been listening to the Marc McMain Show here on Real Country 92.3. Bob Furr filling in for Mark on Tuesdays. Jeff Hood today on Wednesdays. Be back next Tuesday with another episode of Tuesday 250s by 50s. We'll talk to you then. Until then, keep it real.